Okay. Just start off with kind of a little overview of the Chargers. Coach Harbaugh's done an outstanding job putting this team together and bringing the three coordinators that he's brought in, and they've done an outstanding job, very well coached. It's great to see both Keenan Allen and Denzel both back there, guys that, when I was there, we drafted, two great leaders, and you see the way, obviously one's on offense, one's on defense, the way they're playing. Great to see Denzel healthy again, because you never want to see guys get hurt, but very well coached team. They're very physical. You look at both the styles. Greg Roman and I were together back in Carolina a long, long time ago, and with George Seifert, so I know a lot about him. And Jesse Minter's done a great job with the defense. Those two both have the Baltimore background in them, so the physical style of play. So we understand what type of game this is going to be and the type of style of football they like to play. So it's a great challenge for us. So we got to have a great week of preparation and play our best game to date.
When it comes to learning not to hold on to the football too long, is that one of the bigger challenges, like pretty much any rookie quarterback faces, and maybe in particular, is that something that Cam is still learning?
Well, I think over time, you learn that those checkdowns are your best friends. And it's a lot easier, we've talked about this plenty of times before, second and short, third and short is a heck of a lot easier than playing behind the sticks often. And, you hold the ball a little bit too long, you get sacked, or you force a ball downfield waiting too long. There's so many things you learn, but yeah, I think he's learning that. And I think one thing we've always told Cam, and, you see it and you talk about it during games, and sometimes you might be trying to throw the ball downfield a little more. And, he's a very aggressive. He likes to throw it downfield, and we've all seen the big plays he's made. But it's one of those things, I think it's another one of those things you're learning that, hey, okay, it's not there right now, especially with the pass rush you see in today's game. I mean, I think that's an adjustment for what he's seeing. And I know, college football, he played against some great teams. But at this level, you go in Vegas, you got 98 breathing down, and you're coming at you every play. He gets there in a hurry, so you understand that, hey, you see it. You got to make sure you understand what the coverage is, who's going. Are we going to win that one-on-one matchup, or are you running through a zone? But then again, here we are. Here's one of our two backs that are very explosive, or our tight ends. You see the plays the tight ends have made when they've got the checkdowns, the things that we can do after the catch. I think that's kind of a big alert for Cam, what he's seen those players do.
You mentioned Keenan Allen and, being a leader and things like that.
Yeah.
And you guys were there when he was drafted and all. But with this team, where do you see young leadership coming from? What are the traits you look for some of these guys that can step up and be leaders to get you through what this team's going through right now?
Well, I think the great thing about the young players that we've had, or that are playing right now, is you see them performing at a high level. And you can see the growth that they've shown since the day they've got here. And there's nothing like experience. And I think all young players, regardless of what position you're in, I think you're a little hesitant to speak up initially when you get on a new team, even when you bring some free agents in. Sometimes there's some guys that come in, they want to kind of feel it out, even though they're older vet, they want to kind of figure out their role in the organization. But as a young player, sometimes you're walking around there and they're so focused on learning the system, trying to do what's right, and just figure it out. So they're kind of hesitant to speak up. But I think as they start playing more, and the more experience they have and the more confidence they have, they speak up more. Same thing, the great thing about, and I'm talking more offensively because I spent a lot more time in the offensive meeting with the skilled guys, is that, all the young rookies on the offensive side of the ball, the questions that they've asked have been phenomenal. From the very first day, they ask more questions than anybody else, which is rare. I think you don't see that very often. But the big thing is I want the young guys to be themselves and just go out there and play, and don't hesitate to ask questions. And if they've got a comment about something, speak up. And I think that's what happens over time. But it's a matter of just being in a system, getting to know your teammates, understanding your role in the team, but never hesitate to speak up.
Understands the importance of mechanics, is dedicated to that.
Yeah.
The fact that he had success maybe not abiding by them in college and has made some big plays as a rookie on plays where he didn't necessarily have to stick to them. How does that kind of How do you reach the balance on that?
Well, one thing I've tried, in the last couple of weeks with Cam is just trying to talk to him about some things and show him some examples, maybe if he's missed a throw, and show him an example of, okay, when you do have the right target line and your feet are aligned, the right way and where your accuracy increases. And the one thing is you never, we're always going to tell the players, say, listen, we have the individual period, you always talk about the basic fundamentals and things, but then once you get into live competition, you just got to go out and play. And I think when you've played a certain way for so long, it takes time. It's not going to, your feet aren't just going to change overnight. That's something you've got to constantly work on but once it starts, we go kick off, go play football. And I think you can show him and just to say, okay, hey, look, and here's an example of, you're overstride and you're doing certain things. You're throwing the ball to the left a certain way versus going to the right. But if you just look at your feet and look at your target line more often than not, the more consistent you are, the more accurate you can be. And some guys, there's some players that are bad body throwers. They're out of position. I mean, you see some of the plays that Matthew Stafford makes. I mean, you're like, how does he make that play? And you don't know how those balls are thrown. Phillip Rivers had a very unique way of throwing the ball at times. And so every player is different. And when you go out there and play, they just got to go cut it loose. But we stay on I think everything starts with your feet as a quarterback.
You look at sometimes and say, hey, this worked, but it worked despite these things.
Oh, yeah,
it's kind of an exception.
Yeah, you always point those things, and he's been throwing like I said, he's been thrown a certain way for a long time. It's the same thing with throwing mechanics, with where's your arm, how high, but that's hard to change that, and that's not something you just change overnight. That's thousands and thousands and thousands of reps you have to take to change those things. But I think the most important thing is you just show him those things and talk about them with them, and you see some improvement. And maybe one thing that happens sometimes too is maybe it just might be a slight movement in the pocket where he goes too far. So that leads to maybe another little bit of, hey, this is why it looks this way. And if you just have a small little step to your left and then get your target line, it'll be better.
Mike, after 8 games, are you seeing any signs of improvement from Cam, taking some of these teaching points?
Yeah, that's one of the big things we talked about on Monday when we were in here, asking about, we saw some things that he did better this game and the same thing 2 weeks ago. And, the great thing about Cam is he wants to be great. And he wants to be coached hard. I think they've done a great job there with helping him get to where he is today. And he's got a very bright future ahead of him. And he puts all the time in, and now it's just a matter of continuing to get better every week. And that's always a challenge for every player.
With Cam and knowing, go ahead.
No, go.
With Cam and knowing, how much he wants to be great, and it's not happening right now, and then the frustration of the mechanics, etc.
Yeah.
Like, how has he been handling that? Just the whole process of failure before success.
Well, I think he's done an outstanding job. You see him; he's kind of steady Eddie all the time. And we had plenty of discussions. I think when you first draft him way back when, the discussions that were had with him, and then leading up to even to this game, you talk about being a rookie. It's going to take time. It really is. It's playing the quarterback position. It's not easy, and each week you just want to see him get a little better. It's never going to be perfect. Even coaching some of the greatest to ever play the game, and Phillip and Peyton and a lot of others, they come in Monday and they're furious with themselves because they missed you missed something, and that's just something that it's going to happen. And being a rookie at any position, you're going to see something from time to time for the first time, and it just you just learn from it and you just keep rolling. And I think that he's done a great job. I think the coaching staff's done a great job with them, and just helping them get better week in and week out.
Looking at the Chargers defense specifically, what are the types of challenges they bring, especially to a rookie quarterback?
Well, I think their scheme speaks for itself. It's been very successful, regardless of what coordinator, with the scheme that they play. And I think Coach has done a great job of doing what his players do best with the Chargers. I almost said San Diego, sorry. And I think they don't give up a lot of big plays, so you don't see the ball going over their head very often. So you've got to be very efficient in the passing game and take what they give you. And I think that's a sign of a great defense, not giving up big plays. They make you go, you got to extend drives, be great on third down, keep going. So well-coached team.
Corner and a new edge rusher. What's the process of kind of getting those guys, getting to know them, kind of getting them up to speed?
Yeah, it's you got to take advantage of every rep you get in practice, and then carrying over, from what you learned in the meeting rooms, the film study, all those things, spending extra time since the day you got here to make sure that you're up to speed. And just the key thing is anytime you have changes and you have guys in different positions or guys playing with certain players for the first time, communication is critical. That's the most important thing, is just make sure everybody's communicating, over-communicate, because when you got 11 doing everyone on the same page, it's a lot easier to have success.
How are you seeing Calvin work through the time away, kind of mentally handle not being on the field? And I'm curious if you can compare it at all to what you saw from him in Jacksonville when he was coming back from that big time away and had to readjust to play.
Well, I think anytime a player is trying to get back on the field for whatever reason it is, they're all great competitors. And there's a reason why they're where they're at, and why they've been so successful is because of their work ethic. And I think that's one thing that Calvin's done. He's working extremely hard to get back out there. But like I've told you guys a number of times, is that you want to make sure these players are ready to get it back out there, and we'll get them out there as soon as they're ready to play. And that's part of our jobs is and my role is just continue to encourage those guys. And I know there's the frustrating days that they have, depending on how long they're out. Doesn't matter if it's a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a couple days. There's days when you hold guys out of practice and they're mad that they're not practicing. But there's certain things you do, and that's part of the business. And they're all great competitors, like I first mentioned. There's a reason why they're here. The reason why they're one of the best in the business is because of their work ethic, and they want to be great. They don't want to miss it. You'd be shocked talking to some of these guys how hard it is for them to not be playing with their teammates. And I think that's the great thing about the guys we have here, is they care so much about each other, and they want to help the team. Not just they all want to be successful individually, but all these guys, they want to be part of this team because it's a great group of guys.
What do you think are some of the biggest adjustments or challenges when a corner, goes from the outside to maybe playing a slot, and especially if he doesn't have a whole lot of experience, which I guess you guys might be dealing with a little bit here?
Well, I think it just comes down to, really when you move positions, is just trusting the system and the techniques you're being taught. And because there are a few things that are different when you jump inside, the communication, the rules, certain things, maybe you leverage, because whether you're inside leverage, you're outside leverage, all those little things. But it's just that, and that's why I said earlier, the communication part of it is critical. You just got to understand, okay, this is your job, and there'll be a couple mistakes. Don't worry about it. Learn from it, move on to the next play. That happens regardless, whether you're an experienced player, inexperienced players. You're going to get beat. You're going to make a mistake. But it's like I said, I keep saying it, but it starts with communication.
Is it a significant difference, outside or inside, or do we overestimate the difference?
You're asking a former quarterback. I mean, no, there's differences going in and out. I think, if you ask a DB, they probably give you a better answer than I'll give you.
Mike, Denard mentioned kind of the conundrum of next man up with being down 3 corners, technically, that he started the year with. How do you reconcile the goal of trying to win football games with the continued lack of depth at certain positions?
That's, there's things that happen during the season. Some you can control, some you can't. And it's all part of the game. There's changes on a weekly basis. There's injuries during games. You play different players and different personnel packages, do certain things. And there's no excuses in this business. You're going to go out there and play and execute at a high level on Sunday, and that's what there's a certain standard you play with, and you expect those players to go out there and do their job. And when certain players get injured, sometimes you say you don't have that type of player that might be filling in, but it's a great opportunity for somebody else to step up, and they've got a job to do. So you can't make any excuses. You go out there, and they're going to play at a high level and play, do the best job they can.
Yeah, I just had one follow-up from my earlier question. In terms of holding on to the ball, I wonder, the one play against the Colts, 3rd and 8 down near the goal line, he takes a sack, back 3rd and 16. Is that a teachable moment kind of situation? Because all of a sudden you're throwing 16 yards and you get the ball picked on the...
He learned from that one for sure. That's one of those that it's going to happen from time to time, but you just got to understand, throw the ball away, live for another down, and don't make a bad play worse, especially, or make a situation worse. It's a lot easier as a play caller to call it to where the ball was to where it went to. So,
Thanks,
all
everyone.
right, thank you guys. Have a great day.